Hey, welcome to People Think About It. We're back again. We're having a show today with us, a guest today, Miss Eboni Cardwell. And Miss Eboni is here today because we're going to talk about a subject today that we're trying to reestablish some things. So we're going to get some different inputs. But let me just tell y'all a little bit about Miss Eboni. She's a mother of identical twin men. They're young men. Finding out they have served in the military and stuff like that, so I know she's proud about that. She's the owner and founder of Productive Prosper Us Empowerment LLC, professional motivator, keynote speaker, certified life coach, and focuses on self-improvement and self-awareness. Certification of life trials and tribulations, speaks from experience, she's overcome domestic abuse, homelessness twice, marriage and divorce, experienced the dark, and now chooses to walk in the light. We want to welcome Miss Eboni Cardwell to People Think About It.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So our topic today, what we're going to talk about, is the reestablishment to the black man being the head of the family and the community, which, we've lost a lot of that in today's society, especially with us as the black man leading our families and in our communities. And, I just spoke to somebody the other day. I was talking about community. When I grew up, the men up that ran the neighborhood, or the men that were in control of it, well, you knew the whole block, you knew the whole neighborhood. Now in today's society, you may know the neighbor on the left or the neighbor on the right, or you might not know any of the neighbors. So I think a lot of the youth that's out here today, especially young black men, we're lost because they don't get a great image of what manhood should be. I should say that. And so today we're going to talk about that, reestablishing the black man, how we see it from, a motherly standpoint, a womanly standpoint, a manly standpoint. So we're going to start off this conversation, and we're going to get your input, Miss Eboni.
Oh, wow. Okay, so my input on this is I'm going to focus on me being a mom with my twins. And we've had a lot of rocky situations because with me having them so young, my mindset was totally different than what it is today. And being a young mom, the yelling, the hollering at them, it really messed up their nerves. I feel that when young men or boys in general have, I'm not going to say mommy issues, but doesn't have a good relationship with their mothers, or if it doesn't get resolved, it goes and follows into their adulthood. And then that starts to show in the way they treat women, in the way they treat and love themselves as well. And it came to a point now, at my age now, even with my children being at the age they are, one of my boys didn't speak to me for 2 years.
Wow.
And it hurt me. And with the growth that I had, I thought I got divorced. I had gained some growth mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And it's like once I got that growth, then I was able to go to my son and be like, listen, I apologize, and I take accountability for the things I did in the past. And that's all he wanted. Right. Once I apologized, that's all he wanted. I've spoken to children or even grown men now to where till this day their mothers still believe, like when a guy be like, well, mom, why'd you do that? And they be like, shut up, don't talk back to me.
Right.
I don't want to hear that. That's not going to solve the situation. That man is going to be so bitter and so upset as an adult that it goes out into the streets. He's upset. He's mad. All because the person that he really loved and trusted out of, because usually a man is a mommy's boy, not a mommy's boy, but they love their mother.
Right. But and like you say, I think that a part of it is that a lot of people have the debate whether a woman can raise a boy or a man, or whether a man can raise it. And I've always had the belief system that, a woman can be and teach a young man how to be a decent and polite person in society. But as far as teaching them to be a man, I don't think they can do that.
And I agree. I was married, and we did raise them together. But just my part that I was supposed to play was the part, that made that rocky road between us in a certain situation.
Right.
So I do agree, though, as far as the man, definitely.
Right, because, I mean, a lot of people believe that, especially in today. Well, you know, I mean, like, you have a lot of single mothers, and I think single mothers do a great job of what they have to work with.
Yeah.
But when it comes to raising, especially a young black boy, I don't think so much it has to be the father. It just has to be a productive, positive role model man in their life, so that they can see what it's like to be a man. Because I think that part of the thing is, in today's society, we take the masculinity away from men, and we make them feel like it's wrong to be masculine. If you're masculine, no, you're being too hard on a person, or you're being something. But we're built different. Women and men are built different, emotionally, mentally. You know, we built different. And I think that sometimes, because we live in a world of acceptance, they trying to mold everybody to be alike, you know, to a certain degree. What I mean by being alike is like I say, when you take away the masculinity, I find nothing wrong with the masculinity in a controlled way, you know, because some people take masculinity and think it means abuse, being abusive or macho, and that's not what it is. That's not what it is. So I think that, you know, you have to set back, and when we talk about reestablishing the black man back into society and the community, that we got to look for those positive role models, which I think we're lacking in today's world.
And I think also, too, to piggyback off of that, I feel like there's healing that needs to be done. Like Eboni stated, you know, a lot of people, you know, a lot of men are the way they are because of what they experienced with their mom, or what they experienced with their dad, or what they experienced with both parents, or what they lacked in their household, or, you know, in their growth period. I feel like healing has to be done. Healing has to be reestablished before the household can be reestablished. Right. Because you can have a 2-parent household, you can have a father as the head of a household, but what does he stand for? How is he, you know, working within the house? How is he treating the wife? How is he treating the kids? How is he handling business? I feel like a lot of that comes from whatever he's experienced. Like Eboni was saying, you know, you take that and you go and put it in now your household or your relationships, and you just run with it, and now you create chaos in these situations, because at the end of the day, it's all about healing. And I know I always talk about that, but it's a fact. You have to create a foundation. You have to reestablish your foundation within you. And if you don't have a mother like Eboni that's willing to say, hey, I'm accountable for my actions, you have to give that person grace. You got to just say, I may not forget it. I forgive for myself. I may not forget it, but I got to move on, because I'm not going to allow that to hold me back, and I'm not going to allow that to stand in my way of growth.
Yeah, blocks your blessings.
Yeah, so that's what I feel.
Well, you know, like I say, I just, when you look at reestablishing, you know, a lot of things that I think we don't teach men or young boys is respect. And I'm talking about respect from the standpoint of how you treat a young lady, or how you treat your mother, or how you treat your grandmother, the women that's in your life, or even the men or the men or the brothers that's in your life. You know, we're lacking that knowledge of respect. We're lacking that that line of boundaries at times, you know, when it comes to that. And then when you look at that, and if you take some young man that, you know what, it was never boundary set for him, he's going to go through life like that. And then it goes piggyback off of what you said. Now you got a lot of collateral damage you got to try to fix, because like some people don't know how to deal with their issues that they have to deal with internally. And when they're dealing with those issues internally, it could have happened. It could have started at 5 years old and never got corrected. It could have started at 15 and never got corrected. So whatever place they're in when it happened, they perpetuate that and keep it going and going and going until, you know, somebody comes in their life, or they come to the realization and say, I got to fix this. You know, it's like you say, everybody's not going to accept the apology. But as long as your spirit is clear about it, and you have understanding about it. And then one day that's going to touch them, because I solely believe that you can go to somebody and apologize. And if it's pure within your heart, they might not receive it right then and there, but you put that process in their mind to make them start thinking, you know. about change, because it's hard to change. Once you're in a mode of being a certain way, it's hard to change. I know guys that's, we sit around and talk 30, 40, 50 years old, like you say, they still got issues. Some of them still got mama issues. Some of them
childhood trauma, all types of
they
stuff.
got all kinds of stuff going on, And sometimes, like, I'm sitting there cutting hair, talking to these guys, and just some of the stuff that they've been through, But there's almost, with us as men, I think one of the issues that we have is because we, like how women set up and communicate and talk with each other. Women sometimes will tell other women their deepest thing. A man, usually, it's because of that, what's the word I want to use? I'll say machoism for a better choice of words. But it's just like, I don't want you to see my weakness.
It makes you look sensitive.
Yeah, I don't want you to see my weakness, so I'm not going to share this with you. Even though no matter how much I'm hurting inside, and I've seen it with women, if they're hurting inside, they don't have a problem of crying about it.
Yeah.
Because crying brings a cleansing.
Does it?
You know what I mean? And
awesome.
most men is not going to sit around and let another man see them cry. You know what I mean? So that's a tough road.
It is. Society set it up that way that y'all can't cry, but I think men should cry because it is a cleansing.
Yeah.
It's such a
It cleanses your soul.
It's
it
awesome,
cleanses.
actually. It feels good after you cry. You be like, yes, I got it out.
Right.
So when you're talking about that, and men not being able to share with other men, and men not being able to share what they truly feel deep inside, and even sometimes dealing with whether it's their mother, their wife, their mate, or whatever, there's sometimes a man is reaching out in a deep way to you, and you totally ignoring it. You're making it blind.
Yeah.
You're like, man, go ahead with that nonsense, and you take away that at that point in time he's giving up his sensitivity, and you ignoring it. So guess what? He stays in that macho mode. He stays in that gorilla mode, dragging his knuckles and everything. So you gotta kind of pick up on when men are trying to reach out to you.
Yes.
Because they'll come and tell you some deep things, but some of them won't tell their buddies that deep thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what is your outlook on it, Mr. McKenzie?
Well, as somebody that's been the only child, and then have had to deal with my biological father not really being in my life, and then later having my mother get remarried and have another man come in my life and actually adopt me. I think that I have a unique perspective on it as far because I've kind of seen every facet of it. And I would say that as black men as well, I would say that one of the things with me that molded me to who I am now is that I didn't let any of it dictate who I wanted to be. I wanted to be better. I didn't want to be my biological father. And at the time when my father came into my life, whatever, I was about, 11, 12 years old, starting to smell myself. That age where girls telling you cute and whatever, so you smelling yourself and you're starting to figure things out. And at a young age, I realized that when you don't have, because I was pretty much my childhood, I was raised by my great-grandmother.
Okay.
And I do kind of tend to debate the thing to where a woman cannot raise a man. I feel like it's the type of woman that's raising the man. My great-grandmother had vast knowledge, and she would look at you. I was one of 15 boys that I lived in the house, and the street was waiting on us. And she knew that. So she had a way with each one of us to get through to us in her own way, to pull the qualities out of us, and to mold us and set us on the path to be a man. As they say, take the horse to water. And you had to take that, what you learned, and take that into your life and become a man. And so when I grew up, when I got to be 12 and I was smelling myself and I didn't have everything figured out, but I knew one thing. As men, if you don't have somebody in your life, it don't have to be a man, it could be a woman, whatever. If you don't have something in your life and the world is raising you, it's one thing that the world can't raise a man. The world can show you how to survive. When you're taught to survive and take care of yourself, it makes you selfish. It makes you about yourself. All you care about is yourself, paying your bills, keeping clothes on, keeping yourself fed. And it feeds into relationships, and it feeds who you deal with, whatever. That mentality will not allow you to have a sustaining relationship because you were raised by the world to survive.
Right.
And we, as black men, trying to live our lives, be scared with everything going on with police and everything else, and trying to say reestablish us to the community. I feel like we're still here.
Right.
It's just as black men, you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what am I doing, or what can I fix in myself? I can't look and blame somebody for my childhood. Wait, let me finish. You can't blame yourself, blame somebody in the background. Yes, they may have done something to you, this, and that. But you have to acknowledge what happened to you, who you are as a person, and you have to say to yourself, I want to be better. I want to be a better person.
So let me say this. I didn't meet my biological father until I was 40 years old, but when I met him, I know I didn't want to be him. Mm-hmm. I knew I did not want to be him. But if you can't recognize what's wrong internally with you, or you don't want to admit with what's wrong internally with you, I don't think until you're ready for it, nobody can fix it. Mm-hmm. Until you're ready for it. When you become ready for it, then your ears, because it's about, I always say this, a lot of us listen, but we don't receive. There's a difference when you receive something versus to listening to something. Because you listen to it go in one ear and come out. When you receive it, it touches your spirit and your soul. You know, it touches you as a true human being. But I agree with you 100% because, you know, there's a lot of things out in that street waiting on a black man to come. And it ain't good.
And I'll say this: when I was in 12, I didn't think I needed anybody. I didn't care about having a father or a mother. I didn't care about either one. I felt like I had it all figured out, and I knew what I was going to do. I had to stop myself.
Right, and that's
I
what
got
I'm
into
saying.
and I'll be transparent. I got into a very bad altercation with my mother. A very bad altercation with my own mother, because I was at a place to where I was angry. I was angry, and I was trying to figure things out, and I was smelling myself, and there was no man around in sight. And so when my stepfather, I'm going to call him my stepfather, my dad came into my life, he came into a point to where he had to literally tussle with me. He had to, you know, and I'm pretty sure, you know, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. But if you had a situation to where your mother got remarried, another guy comes in, he starts trying to lay down the law, rules.
Well, I've been there.
You know, trying to discipline you and tell you what you need to be doing, and you've been running around doing whatever you want to do. You know, it was a battle.
And that's the part that I'm sharing, that when it comes to a man being there versus the woman being there, I think women do great jobs. I would never ever take nothing of it, but it's a whole difference, a whole enlightenment when a man's involved in a young boy's life.
When your father steps out of your life, and this is why I am so big on, if you have a child, I don't care if you are, especially a young man, if you have a child and they need you, because regardless, if somebody else steps in, my great grandmother raised me when I was a kid, whatever. But I realized back then, I saw other kids with their dad, and I see, regardless if their parents were separated or whatever, they was there, and I saw the impact it had on them, and I feel like a part of my life or whatever would have been better, or I wouldn't have been as angry if I had that, because this is a certain thing that a dad gives you that a mother can't give you. As men, it's more than just teach you how to tie your shoes or show you how to ride a bike. It's an element that a dad has.
Right. It's a difference when that dad tells you he loves you. When that dad tells you he loves you versus your mother tells you he loves you.
When you don't have it and you get it later, it's like you're having to shove it down their throat. That's what it felt like.
Because of the rebellion. Like
now, I love my dad. He's like Superman to me. But it's just like me and him came to odds. And that was something that was like, and I look back on it, it was going to happen. But it was like, you get it when you're older, it's shove it down your throat. You get it when you're a kid, it's in you. It hits different. And I really feel like, you know, fathers need to understand that I don't care what you got going on with your baby mom. I don't care. that boy. Now daughters, yes, it's a whole nother conversation. But those men, those young boys, when you say reestablish them into the community, whatever, that dad needs to be there.
So let me. I'm gonna pose this question to Miss Ebony. Like being a life coach and seeing that it's all that's going on in the community with young black men, even older black men. What kind of direction would you give them as a life coach?
So as far as being a life coach and what I focus on, honestly, a lot of it is mental. A lot of it is mental. You know, I can focus on, you know, loving yourself and speaking life into yourself, but they gotta handle that mental and, like she said, the trauma, whether it's childhood trauma and so forth. It's like I had childhood trauma and I never got it resolved, but the way that my spirit is set up, I kept it moving. That, and some people aren't like that. Some people go through stuff and they have that warrior spirit and they can keep going.
That's me.
That's me.
That's me.
Like I've seen the dark and I'm like, all right, that's enough of that. Let's go.
Militant. I just push through. Yeah.
What? So with that, I'm being honest. I don't know too much. I can start off talking to them about.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's look at it from this perspective. You saying you got two grown young men right now, and you said you know the one, all he wanted was an apology from you. So even looking at black men today, and even your sons, grown men, what would you suggest from a woman's perspective? I'll put it that way. How you should engage with a black man to make him feel strong and wanted, and like how would you deal with that?
Let him talk and let him express his feelings to you, no matter how you might perceive it look to you. Let that man talk. Let that man talk in the way that he want to pour out his feelings, the way he want to express himself. Let him express himself. Let him talk, because he got to get. They have to be good. They have to get it out. Because sitting that in, to me, it's like a disease festering inside. The more you hold it in, the more it's just going to fester. It's like a disease, and it's eventually going to come on the outside. So they need to get out, and they need to have a listening ear with no judgment at all.
Right.
They need a safe space.
I don't have that.
And when I say a safe space, I mean that.
Oh,
you don't go outside and tell nobody else. You don't go tell your girlfriend. That is a safe space. So right now, where I have my children at now, they know they can call me, they can talk to me, because there's some things that has happened with them being adults. They go through things. They be like coming up to me, "Hey, Mom, what's this?" I'm like, "What happened?" You know, and he can talk to me, because I don't show me, I don't want to, I'm not the type of parent. I'm like, okay, well, let me see, because I'm happy he's coming to me and asking me versus going out to the street and asking someone else.
Right.
So I give them that safe space now, and they do. They can call me, they can talk to me, they can come to me, ask questions, and I try my best not to judge, no matter how much I might not like to hear it, but the safe space.
And I think that's a good point, because I feel like a lot of men don't get to express themselves truly how they want.
That's right.
And you made a great point about getting loud. I just think it's not, it's part of our nature. It's not an attack. And I think that when you go, and especially young black men or black men in the period, when they're speaking, they get to talking loud, and sometimes it feels like an attack to the other person that they're talking with, but not necessarily is an attack.
Right.
Is that I'm regurgitating my anger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I let my son do that. I let him vent.
Know.
The one that didn't talk to me,
Right.
I let him vent, and he was just going for it. He was saying everything that, he was giving it to me. And while he was saying it, I just sat there and I just took it, because I felt that for my son to be an awesome human being on this earth, I gotta let him get that out. And that's how I saw it.
I think that would have, if my mother would have the strength to just sit there and listen.
I listened.
I think we would, because I never felt like I was a safe space with her. With my dad, to a certain extent, I don't think I've had a safe space until I met her.
Yeah, because she's awesome.
And I don't, and when I say that, I mean that, because it is very important to be able to just say what's on your mind and just be honest and be transparent and not feel like you're going to be chopped down for saying it or whatever.
No interruptions.
Yeah, and and at the same time being a safe space, in return. And it's just but yeah, with my parents, the only time I had a safe space was with my great grandmother. And then even there was a level of respect. There was a respect line that you had, because that's your great grandmother.
Yes.
So there's only so far you can go with it, just with that aspect.
Yeah.
But I will say that with my great grandmother and my dad and my mother, when she passed, it felt like at the time the one person who really loved me is gone, and a piece of me died. And so it was like that thing what you saying, Lamar, where you like speak up, say your mouth. For years I didn't say nothing because it was like, who do I have to tell to about it? Right. And you know, back then counseling wasn't a big thing like it is now, and you know, all of that. So going forward in relationships and stuff like that, they would take a toll on me when it didn't pan out, or it didn't work, or it was like you felt like you was doing something wrong, something's wrong with you, whatever. And I finally did talk to somebody, and I did, you know, get help. But it was like, because I was carrying something that I didn't know was there, and it was subconscious, and I can't even put a word to it. But it was subconscious, and it was something that it helped me finally heal in a way that I didn't even know I needed to. I mean, I'm one of those guys like, well, my biological father ain't around. I don't care, you know. But you do care, right? In a sense, you do. There's a part of you that was missing that, and you want to know why, you know, and you know, why does this new guy come in and he's like dad now? Why couldn't you do that?
And I say this as a black man, that what I see in our communities, because we have so many divided families, we have so many fathers that don't do what they're supposed to do as fathers. But I feel like it's not necessarily, you know, a father to me is somebody that nurtures, somebody that takes care, somebody that's there, even if they're not there physically, they're there with you mentally. You know, it doesn't make you a man to have a child and not be a father. You know, but I think that a lot of us as black men, we need to step up into bat. Because of the way society is today and the way our communities are, there are a lot of missing black fathers and they ain't coming back. And so I think it's up to us is to step in place, not so much to be that kid's dad or be that kid's father or whatever, but to be a great image of what a man's supposed to be, or what the responsibilities of a man should be and stuff like that. So I don't think that, you know, you sit back and say, well, I'm going to stay angry because my father, you might not never see that joke. Like I said, I didn't see my biological father until I was 40 years old. I thought that my stepfather was my biological father until I was 18 years old. And that's how I found out.
I feel like in the black community, men use that as their their crutch to just be like, well, this is just who I am. You know, this is just who I am. This is what it is. And it's like, okay, but it don't gotta be that. Everybody got a choice. You don't have to be that. You choose to be that. And granted, that has happened to you. Yes, we understand, and I apologize for you experiencing that. But what you gonna do next? You know, why do you keep on trying to hold on to that? Does that make you feel safe to hold on to that? So I feel like, again, to me, it always comes back to healing yourself. Because I'm not going to move past something until I heal that part of me, you know, or start working on that part of me. And I feel like a lot of black men, they don't want to ask the questions because they don't have a safe space, which I understand. Every woman is not a safe space. No. They're not. Your mama may not be a safe space. Your girlfriend may not be a safe. You got somebody that you can be like, even if it's your homeboy, bro, I'm going through XYZ. So at some point in time, you are going to run across somebody where you can just let your hair down.
Right.
And you have to be, again, honest with yourself. This is what's happening. This is what I'm going through. You got to not be so prideful and let your ego take over. You just got to be.
I tell you this. And I speak from experience of being a barber and dealing with a lot of young brothers and older men and whatever. Some of them will come in here and they'll pour out. I mean, literally pour out. And the thing is, what I learned is you got to take that walk with them. You know, if they bitter, take that bitter walk with them, because now you build about understanding. Like, hey, bro, I understand where you at. You know what I mean? But if they bitter inside and they angry inside and you keep telling, man, I ain't trying to hear that, you ain't getting it, they feel like you don't understand where they coming from. So sometimes you got to take that walk with them. You know, I've cut young men. I've met them at 3 years old and they in college now. I've cut young men where they come in here and they call me uncle. They call me Uncle Lamar. Matter of fact, a young man that used to work in the barbershop, sweeping up the hair. He came by my house the other day. He met my wife, and he was like, "This is the man that made me, groom me to, be the entrepreneur that I am," and stuff like that. It made me feel good because sometimes you might not think they listening, but they listen. But I tell you that, like, I feel like from what I've learned from my experiences, you got to take that walk with them. It's like, I'm not going to do what you're going to do, but I'm going to eventually correct what you're doing, So if you're better, and like you say, Dominique, I totally agree. So what you going to do now? But as I'm taking that walk, I'm gradually, because sometimes when a black man or a black young boy is angry, people want them to fix it right then and there. And you got to realize this. If somebody has been going through some kind of trauma for the last 10, 15 years, they ain't fixing it right then and there.
Right.
You might see improvement, then they might slide back.
And that's everybody, though. Healing is not a one-time thing.
It's a process.
It's a process.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Something in life is always going to trigger you, but it's how you react to those triggers that really makes the difference, that really shows your growth. So you can go through it. That's fine. Nobody is taking away whatever pain, trauma that you've experienced, but just don't make it a crutch. That's my thing. Yeah. Just don't pour it over and bleed on the next person. Is my thing. Don't bleed on your kids, your relationship. Don't bleed on these people because they didn't ask for this. They didn't ask for you to be this way. So you do have to turn everything into self sometimes. Yeah. That's just how I feel. Yeah. When we trying to establish. And I feel like more guys need to get together instead of talking about, oh, yeah, she got a fat ass. Talk about some good stuff. Read a book or two.
Well, there's guys that do that. There's guys that do that.
I mean, and when I'm looking at social media, all I see, oh, yeah. Me and my homeboy, we out there at the strip club throwing ones. And that's cool. Do your thing. But what about the real stuff? You can't polish over all of that stuff. You got to deal with them underlying issues. You could throw money, but then what? Then you got to go back to your house and you got to sit in your reality. You can smoke all the weed you want, then you got to come back to reality. You can get drunk all you want. You got to come back to reality. So what you going to do?
And you're right.
It's guys that do that, Lamar, but it is frowned upon. Like, it's not cool, or it's like that's not manly, or that's not, they'll look down upon. So it's like it's a minority in that situation. And it just speaks to one of the many normalizations that we have in the black community as far as men not talking, accepting what's wrong with them and just saying that's just how I am. Normalize single mothers. It's, even with that, I didn't grow up seeing single mothers. I saw girls with kids and then meet a guy. Oh, that's your son, that's your daughter. Okay, and then you look up and that's daddy. I didn't grow up around that. So seeing it now and being like it's a problem, or single mothers are like a problem or something, it was like that's normal or whatever, or that's her fault, or that's her responsibility, and there's no men stepping up. These kids need fathers, regardless if you're the biological father or you met the girl and she got a kid. These kids need fathers. There's no way around it. No, the two-parent household is so important to kids, and we putting so much on the mothers to raise these kids, and meanwhile, the men out here, and I can't single myself out, even though I don't agree with what's going on. I'm still a man. I'm still putting inside the pot. So I have to say, us as men, we're not stepping up and being fathers. If we nothing, not Big Brother. What happened to the Big Brother program? When we used to have that, we was a kid. YMCA, we used to have all that stuff. There's so many ways for black men to have a role model. If you didn't have it at home, you could go down to the YMCA. You could go down to the gym. You got a coach there. You had men that was there, that was willing. You had youth pastors. When being out on the east side, you had Bishop Eddie Long on his church, and I understand the whole drama behind that. But in the past, you had youth pastors that was there as being fathers. That stuff is gone.
But part of it is when you mention about recreation centers and YMCA's, part of that's the government. Part of that we don't have control of. But so when you don't have, because I grew up in recreation centers, I grew up to basketball leagues where there were men, showing you how to do this, showing you how to do that. So some of the things that, because society changes and it changes so fast, some of the things that we have to take, and I like the word you use, as men, we have to, when these programs are taken from us, we have to create these programs ourselves within our own community. It's just like I say, if you live in a community and it's 10 young men or 20 young men that live in that community, guess what? Start a program within that community. Get with them other parents, go talk to them single moms like, hey, we're not going to leave the community. I'm going to go to Walmart or something and get a basketball thing. I'll start a league in the community, But within it, we as men have to step up, because if we walk around and just talk and do nothing about it, it's going to remain the same. So just like I said, you look at people, they only know the neighbor on the right of them, or they only know the neighbor on the left. I grew up, I knew everybody in the neighborhood. I knew people 3 blocks away. You talking
about the village.
So when we talk about the YMCA, the recreation center and stuff, hey, some of that we just can't do nothing because the government regulates.
There's nothing stopping us from doing that for ourselves, is what I'm saying.
Well, that's why I said the community. But you can't, where a recreation center was in the school, you can't just walk in the school and say, I'm going to start a recreation center. So that's why I said within your community. So that's what I'm saying. We as black men, let's do it within our community.
These young men don't even know what that look like, what we talking about.
But you see, that's what I'm talking about.
So they don't even know. If you try to do it, like, what you doing?
But that goes back to what Dominique said. I don't care what they don't know what they look like. They can't know what something look like until you put them in a position and show them what it looks like. You know what? You take and start it. No, we can't go to a school and have a recreation center, but like I said, within a community, we can start something. I totally agree with you saying, Dominique. Okay, you got all this pain, trauma, and everything. What you gonna do now?
Right.
So we can sit here and say, well, this person say, they don't understand this. They don't know what it look. But you know what it look like. Right. I know what it look like. So let's show them what it looks like. You know what? I know what it's like to be a decent person in society. I know what it's like to be a prosperous black man. So now what I have to do, is put it out there within my community.
Right.
I have to go talk to these parents. Hey, you know what? I get, a lot of people ain't letting their kids go with people now, because of the way society is. But if I can establish something that's right there in the community, we're not leaving the neighborhood. You know what? That adds a different perspective.
It does.
Dorshell would tell you.
But it's like the mindset is different now. Like I harp on my uncle because he is such a great man. And he used to, when we were back in Jersey, he had a DB camp. He's a football coach. Right. Football is life for him. So he would take those boys, and he got players that's in the NFL right now. That was through him. They ain't have no daddies. They ain't have no this. But they came to practice. And now he's down at South DeKalb trying to recreate that same thing that he had. But you have to put yourself out there, and you have to be that kind of man that's willing to put your foot forward. Because if not, then you don't have that. So what is happening in the community? Oh, they shooting each other up, and they killing each other, and they sleeping with this one baby mama, and this drama going. All of that. You got all of that. So I feel like, remember back then when they had the career days? You had guys coming in, you had ladies coming in. You had career day, and you had things that was prompting them. And like you said, you can't just walk up to a school and say, hey, I'm doing this. But you can't. Instagram, you got all these social platforms. Hey, we having this camp. Oh, sign up, we having this. Oh, we having a dance off. We having, something that's going to get these, what is going to be appealing to the generation now, because they different.
Right.
I hate that I'm half a part of that in some way.
One thing has always been effective for me, and I think that in society today, a lot of black men fear this. They fear their own kind. Meaning that, you see all the young brothers with the locks and the pants sagging and stuff. People afraid of that. You know what I mean? But, it's like, I know when we had a barbershop, and it was a lot of young men come in and out of that barbershop. And I would not let them walk through that door with their pants sagging. I would not let them walk in front of their mother. Man, you're not walking and opening this door and your mother walking behind you. That ain't happening. You know what I mean? You're here to protect your mother. You know what I mean? And if you want to get a cut here, you need to pull up them pants. And the barbers in there used to say, man, one of them young going to do something to you. And when they're willing to do something, I'm willing to do something too. But the point of the fact of the matter is, it was that they were scared to say. I wasn't scared. I'm not scared because why should I be scared of my own kind?
Your own kind.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I be scared of my own kind? I have to sit back and allow them to know, hey man, first of all, your mother, you here because your mother gave you birth. That's why, number one reason why you here. You're not going to, at least in my presence, you're not going to disrespect that lady. So if I can make you understand not disrespecting your mother, then I can make you don't disrespect that young lady. You know, I had a young man, like I said, I cut his hair from the time he was probably about 8 to 25. One day he came running to the barber shop. Man, me and my girl just had a little baby, My first words to him was this. That's great you had a little baby. So I want to say this to you. In having that baby and her having, you know, y'all being the parents, I don't care what go on in that relationship, you better always be there as a father. Yeah. That's what I said to him. You better always.
Take 2 seconds.
Not sometimes, always. I wouldn't care if that young lady left you, cussed you out, spit on you, whatever. That child didn't ask for it. So you better be the father that child expecting you to be. And that's and you know, even when I met my biological father at 40. I did not want to be what this man was. The reason he gave me that he wasn't around was ludicrous to me. I'm like, are you kidding me?
But no reason would have made you feel better. That's the gag.
Yeah.
Nothing would have made you feel better.
No, I think if he, because for so long, for 40 years, I didn't know, I would rather for you not to say nothing.
And what I've learned, the anger is it don't matter what the reason is. It's the time that you lost. You can't get it back. That's what the anger comes from. It's not from, he could have given you any explanation he wanted, but it's the time you can't get back. You said you didn't meet him until you was how old?
40. And you know what? The real trip about it is this. When you know that your biological father is living, and he hasn't been a part of your life, as a young black man, that eat at you terribly. Oh, yeah. It eat at you terribly. Yeah. You know,
or they had kids, but so you might have a sibling run around.
Right. Well, I did. I found out I had a brother that got killed in New York, so I never met him. Oh, wow. I found out I have a sister, and to this day I don't know her. You know what I mean? So
that burns me up. I don't know for sure, but in my gut, I feel like I do, and it's just like if I find out, I'm not sure how I'm gonna handle that, because it's just like that's another person that I didn't know. I don't. You made another person. You raised another child. And I don't, I don't know. It's hard to put it into words, but it's just like I know it's gonna really gut punch me, because it's just like.
And I honestly, I can't even say that's just a raising man thing. Even for myself, my father left when I was 6. And to this day, I be like, damn, I got daddy issues. Because I know I do, And even though my stepfather has been there since I was 12, it doesn't change that my father wasn't there. And now trying to start from scratch, start from the beginning. Because you don't know me. I'm grown. You don't know. I don't know you. You don't know me. I got siblings. And yeah, like McKenzie was saying, it does hurt to know, oh, you had a whole nother family. You had more kids. You raising these. Well, what happened to me? Was I not good enough? So now, when we talk about reestablishing the man in the household, not just for the man, but for the woman too. Because I know I went through relationships and I was allowing whoever I was with to do whatever they want, and I was giving them a pass and I was giving them an excuse and I was like, oh yeah, no, he ain't like that and he's just having a bad day. Oh, he punched me in the face today, but I'm real. I was allowing these things, and I feel like if I had the father figure that I needed or that I deserved, not asking to be here, that I deserved, my whole mentality would have been completely different.
You be like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, my daddy gonna come and he gonna get you. But I missed that part. Yeah. I missed having that dad that was gonna come with the Glock and he was gonna press up on you and say, "What's up? What you about to do with her?" We missed that part. Right. We missed those things. So not even just for our men, but for our women too. Even growing and coming into ourselves, we need that as well.
But I think, and I get what you're saying, but I think that if you don't fix the establishing of a black man, it really is null and void, because
it's a continuous cycle.
It's going to be a continuous, because you have to fix that first. You have to, it's a lot of things that, that you have to understand, that we as men have been put as the head, as far guidance and correction and stuff like that. But if you're not taught how to guide, how to correct, it's not going to be done. I totally get what you say, because like even me, like I said, I raised 2 daughters. And with those 2 daughters, the only thing I could do is teach them to be good people in society, because when they start having all the women issues and stuff, I would take them to my women friends. But what I would do, we would date. I'd take them out on dinner dates and all that, because I wanted them to know what it looked like, what it smelled like, what it takes to, how a man is supposed to treat you.
Yes, sir.
My daughters are grown to this day. And even like in today's society, how women call each other bitches and stuff, like, you know, that's just a term of endearment. If you call one of my daughters a bitch, you got to fight. I'm telling you, because I instilled into them, you're not a bitch, and you don't let nobody call you a bitch.
Right.
I don't care whether it's in play, fun, or whatever. Don't let nobody label you as no bitch. My daughter, my oldest daughter, almost lost her job behind that, because a girl insisted that she want to call her a bitch. Oh, wow. But I think that that's part of being manhood, being a father, that you got to understand this. You confirm your daughters into womanhood. You confirm them, because that young lady's going out there and get with some man or what, you know, or whatever they choose, but you confirm them as a father into womanhood.
Yeah, because as men, we give them the game. We show them what you're going. This is what you're going to run into in the street. This is what he's going to try to pull on you. This is what he's going to say to try to manipulate you to get what he wants. This is how it is out there. That's what a dad does, and it hits different. I get it. That's why I said that was a whole different conversation when you talk about a father and a daughter. That's a whole different thing, because for you.
But even still, I'm sorry to cut you off. Even still with that, Lamar, you were willing to look at your situation, whatever that may have been, and was like, I'm going to be better. That was the choice that you made. And granted, you may not have it all figured out, but you knew when these kids got here, I was going to lead the way for them. That was a choice that you made.
Right. You know it's definitely a choice. It's definitely a choice.
Despite whatever your mama did, your daddy did, or whoever did, that was still a choice that you made. And that was a smart choice, because now you do have these girls that you educate. You do have the guys in the barbershop that you can put on game and pour into them and things like that. You did that. Because, you made that conscious decision for you. And I think if more men made those conscious decisions, we would be in a better place. You didn't always have a safe space to go to, right? Right. So whatever you did what you knew how to do to get to where you needed, to where you are now.
But it's kind of like Eboni said.
Right.
I was one of those people that no matter what I face or what, I'm like, oh, the hell with it, and I keep moving on. I'm not going to let this, whatever happened to me in life, hinder my destination, because I'm a confirmed believer in life is free playing. So whatever's for you is for you. Whoever's for you is for you. You know what I mean? So in taking that walk and that journey that I took, I've been in homelessness and all that, but that didn't stop me from being a father. I'm not going to put my burdens on somebody else. I'm going to go and figure it out. And that's what I'm going to teach a young man, that, you know what? I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to uplift you. I'm going to tell you what you should be doing. And like you say, Dominique, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's a choice, because no matter how much I instill greatness in you, it's your choice to accept that greatness.
Right, you got to be receptive.
It's just like one time I heard this thing, like Muhammad Ali. You know how he used to say, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, and people used to knock him for that. But that man believed in that so much that he became great.
He spoke life into himself.
And the thing about it is, that's a great point right there. We have to start speaking life into these young men. You know what I mean? We have to start saying that, you know what? Oh, what was that saying? I heard, let me think of that saying. This is, I think it'll come as we come as that, but it's a great saying. It's a great saying, but I think I haven't said it in a while, but it goes something like, this may be who I am, that's not where I'm going to be. You know what I mean? I may be this right now, but that's not where I'm going to be. You know what I mean? Because we all got trials and tribulations in life. We all got ups, downs. We all got choices, and we got to take and figure out, hey, am I going to go left or I'm going to go right? It's like the yin and the yang. It's just like spirituality. It's either the good or the bad. You got to choose one. It's the black, white. They say it's no in between. You know, so either I'm going to be a father or I'm not going to be a father. And I'm a firm believer in that. There's no in between in that. Because one thing that I really stand tall on, a child didn't ask to come here. And if that child didn't ask to come here, then guess what? Now that child is here, you got a great responsibility. You know, no matter what you and that mother may deal with, the highs, lows, and, you know, because we dealing with things as an adult. I'm a father to a young man. I got to deal with you as a young man. What me and your mom or me and this person going through has nothing to do with you. I'm going to always be there for you. I'm going to always show you love. I'm going to always embrace you. I'm going to always encourage you, you know. And those are the things that we got to do as young men. And I think that if we start doing those things and reestablishing love and kindness and reestablishing what a man's supposed to be, I think that a lot of society things is nonsense now. I mean, you know, you get on all these social media sites and you see the nonsense, and some of that stuff don't make young men become men. It don't make them become men, you know. It just, like you say, somebody on there just at the club throwing money. That's not being a man. That's being a fool. First of all, you throwing away your sweat equity. You know what I mean? As somebody you don't even know. If I'm going to do it, guess what? I'm going to go throw it at my wife so I know we got a return. You know what I mean? But you out there just throwing it, and then you end up broke.
And one thing about black men too that's not in us is this fragile thing. They need to know and be reminded what it looks like. Nowhere through history were black men perfect. But one thing we didn't have in us is fear or crutches or, oh, I got anxiety. That's just how I am. Or this, and that. I got trauma. We push through. And now it's just like they don't know what that looks like, or they forgot who you are. You know, you're a black man. And like you said, oh, you head of the household, you this and that. But we're men at our core. And we're supposed to be powerful. We're supposed to be the ones that push through. We're supposed to be able to carry weight. You know, and then if we need to talk about it, fine, talk about it. But we was never, as black men, somebody who carried crutches or were like, oh, I got this problem, and so, you know, this is how it is, and just go through your life and just that, don't do nothing about it. You conscious of it, you don't do nothing about it. It's like they in the Twilight Zone, like they got a fog on their brain or something, and they just can't get out of it, and they don't know what it looks like for a man who are, you know, I mean, you might see them, but I mean, they have what, rappers and people, celebrities and stuff, that you don't know what's real from fake from that. But just somebody walking down the street, whatever, and seeing it, they don't have that.
Right.
You know, and that's why I was bringing up the big brother thing and whatever, this and that. I'm not saying it needs to be that. It could be something new. But they need to see what it looks like.
Right.
With somebody going through something similar to them, and they survived, and they went through it, and then look where I came out as on the other end.
Yeah, it's about teaching a man to be vulnerable. Yeah. He got to be vulnerable, but like Miss Eboni said, that in his vulnerability, you got to be able to listen, not judge. At all. You know, not go and, oh, he weak, he this, he that. You know what I mean? You know. No, I'm not saying the man weak, but what I'm saying is in teaching vulnerability is that, you know, I can say a lot of men probably don't think people really listen to them or care what they're saying, you know, because the expectations of most men are so high. Yeah. And part of the things, when you can't reach some of those expectations, you feel like you're a failure, you know. So, you know, we're gonna look into this thing deeper, how we can reestablish the community, reestablish us as black men, young black men, how we reestablish ourselves in the family environment, and we just want to thank our guests. We want to thank everybody for their opinion. You know, if you want to check out our podcast, go to peoplethinkaboutit.com and go onto our pod page. If you want to be a guest, fill out the guest form, and you want to talk about a certain subject, we can do that as well. You can also reach out to us at peoplethinkaboutit@gmail.com. And once again, we want to thank our guest, Miss Eboni Cardwell, you know, our regular guest, Miss Dominique Hagler, and McKenze. We want to thank y'all for being here every week. So we want to thank Miss Dorshell for being a producer of the show. We want to thank y'all again for People Think About It. And welcome to People Think About It. Keep it going.